folks will ever want to see. Indiana wins the championship. Keith Smart is the hero.
Welcome to episode 9 of Iconic Seasons 1987, the year that saw one of the most iconic matchups in NCAA basketball history. On today's episode, we're going to be recapping the championship game between Indiana and Syracuse. This was the championship game. It had everything from future pros to buzzer-beating shots. We'll start with former Hoosier six-man Joe Hillman, who was on the court before, during, and after the game. Then my co-host and I get into the nitty-gritty, breaking down the moments and memories. If you're a fan of basketball, you don't want to miss this episode. Tune in, and if you like it, leave us a rating and review. This is episode 9 of Iconic Seasons 1987. 1987, we'll get in the time machine, and we talked about the Final Four game last time, so I wanted to kind of start right after that in thinking about like how much time do you get to celebrate? Because it's obviously a huge deal to win a Final Four game. So how long do you celebrate? And then what's the reset? Like how do you reset then back to all right, we that's enough. We're back to preparing. We still got work to do.
Yeah, well, I think that's where Coach Knight was great at. We were all excited on the floor, and I remember even saying, Isle gets the steal at the end of the, and he dunks, and now we're going to win. And I remember everybody getting all excited. I remember, hey, we got it. We got another game to play. And Oliver said, shut up, Joe. We're going to celebrate this. It was good. But then when we got into the locker room, it was pretty much, hey, this is great. You know what? We came down here to play 80 minutes and got another game to go on Monday. So let's enjoy this for a little bit, but we got to get ready for Syracuse because we knew we were playing Syracuse because they played the first game, and it was pretty short-lived. And then we didn't get out of there until pretty late, though. In fact, I remember the first game, the Syracuse-Providence game, went overtime. So now, back then, we played. They took 7 guys in a wild card or something, and we had to get drug tested.
Okay.
So I think the rest of the team went, and then the 7 guys that had the drug test, and there was always somebody that couldn't go to the bathroom or whatever, stage fright or dehydrated or something.
Yeah.
But we didn't get back until pretty late. I'm going to say 1 o'clock maybe, but late. So, and it was a draining game. That Vegas game was up and down. And once we got out of the locker room, the Coach Knight was always, hey, this game doesn't matter if we don't go play well the next game. There was never a big win at Indiana, but every loss was the end of the world. That's just the way it was. Hey, we didn't bring you here to lose. We brought you here to win games and he was so good at not letting us get too high and keeping us on an even keel. And I think that you see that now in college basketball all the time where Indiana plays great against Purdue, at Purdue, not expect to win, and then they come and lay an egg the next night, 2 days later or whatever. And so, the focus immediately got to, what are we going to do now? We just got back to the hotel, grabbed something to eat, and then we went to bed. And guys were tired. And so the next day, what was really interesting was, I think we met at 11 o'clock or something. And Coach said, hey, we've got the floor if we want at like 3:30 if we want to go shoot around. And Steve said, Coach, I'm gassed. I'm tired. And it was oh, boy. He goes, all right, we don't need to shoot around. We'll shoot around Monday morning before the game. We're fine. If you guys are okay with that, let's just walk through a bunch of stuff. And at the time, you always walking through stuff 5, 6, 7 times, and you're kind of rolling your eyes and, oh, boy, here we go. We did. And you have such a short turnaround that watched a lot of film, break down. And in our coaches and coaching staff, with Coach Knight, what he would do is he had somebody do the Vegas game. And then somebody was already working on Providence and somebody was already working on Syracuse. So Coach Waltman had Syracuse. He had all this stuff ready to go. And it wasn't like, walking to that meeting on Sunday, we had that stuff right then and there ready to go, which was what.
Yeah, so what were the impressions of Syracuse then? Just like game film or just kind of talking amongst the guys?
Well, they were big.
Yeah.
Cycling and Coleman were big. Yep. They just had a good, solid team. I think Georgetown won the Big East that year. I think Alonzo Mourning was on that team and maybe even Reggie Williams. And so they were good. I think Syracuse finished second because they were a 2 seed. But I just remember them being, hey, this is just a solid team. They got a lot of good players. Trish was a good college player. Then they had Monroe, good college player. Sherman Douglas, really good. Guys played in the NBA for a long time. And, Cycli was just a big man. I mean, he was an older guy. He was a senior, and he was big. Coleman was a freshman, but long. And I don't remember us, and probably because we didn't have a week to prepare for him like we did Vegas. I don't remember the preparation as being as diligent and going through the practices, because we didn't practice. I mean, we walked through stuff.
Are you guys in the hotel room doing that, doing the walkthroughs?
Yeah, in the hotel ballroom.
Yeah.
You go to a ballroom and you're walking through, and then they had film set up, and some, coach usually had a suite. We'd go in and watch film, and then we'd go to the ballroom. And literally, Aaron, we probably did that 5 or 6 times on Sunday, where we'd go watch through, kind of almost like, okay, hey, let's go watch some more film, go back and walk through. Then, okay, hey, we're going to eat here. Then we'll go back. You're kind of regurgitating all of it. But we never practiced for the Syracuse, just walked through stuff. Had our shoot around on Monday, which we didn't go through. We walked through some stuff, but we weren't going to walk through with all the media, setting up all our switches and doing whatever we're going to do defensively. We did that back at the hotel. So really, that preparation for that game was really all film work. So it wasn't the game plan wasn't like, we had such a specific game plan against Vegas. Like, hey, we're going to go up and down, and we're going to get the first good shot. We prepared for zone against Syracuse, prepared for man-to-man, but they weren't really, you think of Syracuse, you think of the zone. They really weren't playing that. They didn't
do it as much then.
That year they weren't doing it.
Yeah.
It didn't come until after that they started playing more zone. So we prepared for how we were going to help. We were going to help off with Sherman Douglas when the ball went in the post. And then we were just, making sure that Monroe wouldn't go left, because he's a left-handed guy, that we could help off of Trish. But we had to keep them off the boards. And so there just wasn't the on-floor prep that we set up. So a lot of that stuff doesn't even resonate with me compared to what we did against Vegas, setting that all up.
What about like getting into like the pregame stuff? Are you able to try to stay in some of your routines? Because I'm sure a lot of guys have like those pregame routines. But is it the same? Is everybody trying to stay kind of in their same zone?
Coach was great about that. We did everything the same no matter what the game was.
That's awesome.
We didn't go over there early.
Yeah.
We went over there normal. We were never a team. And I hated doing this on other teams. We didn't go out and shoot around and screw around and then come back in and do all that and then go do normal run. We got to the game an hour and a half early, went to the guys that had to get taped and do whatever. They did that. Then we went out and warmed up. And then we came back in and we were out and we played. And that never changed. It's just like we didn't even change going down there. Remember I said in the Vegas, we went down on Friday.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. And so Coach was great about that. He just kept everything, and now nothing was different. The one thing I do remember about before the Syracuse game, John Havlicek, the great Celtic, came in and spoke to us.
Okay.
And it was before. I think it was before we left the hotel to go to the Superdome. And I'll never forget this. He said, when this game is done, if you can wake up tomorrow, look in the mirror, and say, I did everything I possibly could do to help us win, then no matter what happens tonight, you're a winner.
That's a lot coming from him, because that guy.
So you think about what he said, and you say, you know what, if I just don't wake up and say, I wish I would have. I wish I could have. I should have done this. If you can just say I did everything I could, then you got beat. And I don't know if that was to kind of keep it, hey, don't think this is too big or whatever, because I remember when Coach Knight, he always said, hey, these are the games that you're coming here to play in Indiana. This is what we're here for. So there was never focus, you got to, this is such a big, this is this, that. No, hey, look, we're going to go play 40 minutes, and this is what you got to do. And so that was drilled into us, and I don't think there was ever a moment where anybody – I can tell you this, it never crossed my mind. The only time it crossed my mind is when we went over to when Smart hit the shot and Syracuse eventually calls a timeout. That's the only time I ever thought. I remember walking over to, I think it was Oliver. I said, hey, we're going to win this thing. And, because I knew they weren't going to get anything with a second.
Yeah.
But I guess it just never. It's harder when you're on the bench. I will tell you this: when you're watching on the game, it's more nerve-wracking because once you get out there, you get in the flow. You're just now you're playing, and now it's a normal. You just get involved, and now it's instinct, reaction, anticipation, but when you're sitting over there, it's way harder.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm sure it's hard for fans too, because I remember my dad. I remember seeing a picture of my dad sitting there with my mom, my brother, and sister and stuff. His hair, it just looked like he'd been through. It looked like he'd been through hell for 4 days. Just looked dead.
Oh my God.
Rick Calloway's mom wasn't in her seat for much of the first half. She couldn't bear to watch.
My cup had run up over. You can just take so much. And that was it. I had to get up. I wanted to live to see the second half, and if I had remained there, it was questionable.
When you watch your own kids play and stuff like that,
I can't imagine. Yeah.
It is hard. But, yeah, so that the pregame of that was really, I guess, the thing that stuck in my mind the most was when John Havlicek.
That's a big moment.
Yeah. Just when you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror, make sure if you can say, hey, I did everything I could for us to possibly win, then you're a winner, and there's nothing you can, nothing to hang your head about. So it's almost like, hey, look, go out and do your best. If you lose, you lose. And when you win, it was just a good memory that I have of that pregame.
What jumps out about the start of the game? So you're talking about like getting in the flow, but watching the start of the game, what jumped out or what kind of thoughts were popping in?
I didn't play the first 17 minutes, maybe in the first 16 minutes. And I actually thought I was going to get in there quicker, just because of how well we had played in the Vegas. I knew guys were tired, and I remember the game being a little sloppy to start. Neither team was very sharp. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that was fatigue, really hot and humid down in New Orleans on Sunday. Both teams expended a lot of energy on the Saturday games. And so it just wasn't a real clean game. And then I got in there and now you're playing. I remember just being anxious and anxiety kind of clicking and going, what am I going to get in? And, oh boy, am I going to get in type of deal? But you're just watching and trying to figure out what's going on. I just remember they had a couple plays. It was like, whoa, oh boy, we're going to have time stopping these guys. Cycling got a couple easy dunks, and but we hung in there. We weren't playing very well. We knew we weren't playing very well. And then I get in there, we kind of get going, and then when I flip the ball behind my back to Alfred, he drills the three, and we go up at half. Somebody said when we got to the locker room, I don't know if it was Coach or if it was Steve, we got in and said, hey, guys, we're not even playing our best, and we're up one. Come on, we can play better than what we're playing. And it wasn't like, we can beat these guys because we're up one and we haven't even played well. Yeah. Let's go. Let's get together. I think it was kind of Coach. And then he walked off, and they have to. He just walked in, and so what Coach would always do, he would walk in, say a few things, unless he was just really pissed, and then he would go after us, say a couple things, walk out. Coaches would huddle on kind of what the adjustments were going to be to do, and maybe one of his coaches said, "Hey, look, we're not even playing. We know we can play better than this, and we're up one. So let's be thankful that we're up one, but we got to play better." And walked out, and then. There wasn't a huge adjustment at half, and I remember
this bomb at the buzzer made it IU 34-33 at intermission. But Bob Knight was far from comfortable with the way this game was unfolding.
And I didn't feel very good walking off the floor at the half because we weren't as sharp as we were Saturday. Syracuse did an excellent job changing defenses and had us standing around a little bit and guessing a little bit more than we should and not really getting the ball where we wanted to go throughout most of the ball game. I thought they did a hell of a job defensively.
Thinking, okay, we're going to be okay. I don't remember if Daryl got in foul trouble, but I thought that was the Vegas game. So I do remember them getting on a little spurt to start the second half. Yeah, they did. And we did not play well. We were turning the ball over. I actually got in pretty quick on there because I think I came in with like 18 minutes to go in the game, and he took Keith out. No, I came in, and Keith went out, and I never knew this. Keith then came in from Ricky or something, and I remember Keith telling me this story that Coach said, I'm giving you one more chance. You do mess this up, I can't play the rest of the night. And it may have happened a little later in the half. That was kind of the start of the 3-guard thing. I came in and played the last 17 minutes. We played with 3 guards, and we really had never done that all year. But then we used it a bunch my last 2 years. But what really stuck out of my mind in that was how Syracuse most of the time matched us up and brought a 3rd guard in, which was a guy, Stevie Thompson, who's not much of a scoring factor, which kind of helped us a little bit. Trish was a better scorer than Stevie Thompson. And they matched us and went small for a lot of that, probably at least half to 70% of that time. Then all of a sudden, something clicked with Smart. He hit a shot or something, and all of a sudden now, because I think we got down 10.
You were down 10, yep.
And Smart hit something, kind of just a good, quick athletic play. We got him in the middle. Then he got on a break and laid one in. Then he hit some spectacular layup, and all of a sudden it's like, we're down 2, and this guy's off in Never Never Land. Who knows? And it's working. And I think at that point, Coach just said, we're sticking with this. We're going to leave Hillman in, and we're going to let Smart run around, and we'll have Steve kind of – and then we just kind of hung in there.
You gassed at this point, or just like running on pure adrenaline?
No. The game pace was nothing compared to the Vegas pace. And so it was just a little more kind of physical banging around, but the game just wasn't as clean. It just neither team, I would say, would look back and say that was a sharp game. It was just not a very good game. And then again, we just, we get down to the last 5 minutes, and we always had a belief. This team just had a belief we can keep it close. We're going to win, because I think we lost one close game the whole year. We lost at Illinois, just didn't execute at the end. But we were just always comfortable because we knew we could make free throws, and we knew we had guys that we could trust to make shots. And we knew we probably weren't going to make a mistake or a bad play to hurt us. We just had a belief in that. And the good teams that I played on in Indiana, we always felt like we were going to win the games at the end. Just did. And 95% of the time, we end up winning close.
That might contribute to your confidence too. After you win, after you win enough of them, you're like, all right, we got this.
Coach put enough pressure on us in practice that game situations and things like that, you were used to being under pressure, because practices, man, he could put a lot of pressure on you in practice. I mean, there would be days that he would just get after 1 or 2 guys. Let's just see how much they can handle. I mean, he just and he got on you, and now all of a sudden you got excited, and and he made you play through that stuff. And then he found out, hey, who could play a nutcracker?
I played for a great coach in Fred Taylor, a great coach, and he never let a good play go by in practice that he didn't make mention of.
Pass, Gene. Pass. Ball, Gene. Where's the ball? Good pass, Gene.
I don't care who made the play. It could have been a blockout, a pass, come up with a loose ball, whatever. And I've really tried to do that in my entire coaching career. But also, I want you to know when you've made mistakes. I don't think mistakes are a part of basketball. I don't think mistakes have to be a part of life. Winning is not making great plays. It's eliminating mistakes. Winning is eliminating poor judgment. It's eliminating carelessness. It's eliminating a casual approach. It's getting a kid to understand that if this is something he's doing, that others depend upon his doing it as well as he can do, that then, damn it, do it as well as you can do.
And we had a trust, and we had good enough players too. I mean, it also helps to have good players. So, and then the end of the game just kind of went our way. But to our credit, we did the things that we needed to do at the end of the game. And, I'm sure we'll go through that in the last couple of minutes, but we made the right plays and we did the right things, and fortunate when they missed a few free throws.
Yeah. Take us through it. Yeah, let's do it. The last few.
Yeah. So, we get to the point where I think we were down 3, and I think Trish was shooting a free throw, and he missed it pretty bad. And kind of a long rebound, and Smart and I get out on a break, and this is now with 30 seconds to go, and Smart lays it in, we call timeout. And we were down 1. And Coach, I remember all this. So we go to the maybe like 31 seconds left or something. So we call timeout, we go to the huddle, and Coach says, all right, here's the deal. We're not guarding Coleman, we're not guarding Cycling. Whoever, when they get the ball, let's make sure they inbound the ball to one of those 2 guys, and we're going to foul them right away. I don't care who it is, foul. Cycli took the ball out of bounds, which kind of helped us because now we just didn't guard Coleman at all. And they inbound the ball to Coleman, and we run and foul him. Darryl fouls him, I think. And so now there's 29 seconds left, and Coach calls another timeout. So we're down 1, 29 seconds to go, and Coach says, okay, when Coleman misses his free throw, I want the first good shot we get taken. I don't want to take this all the way down to the wire. Let's not force anything, but whoever gets a wide open look, a good look, step up and knock it in. And so that really kind of was like, run our regular offense. If you get a good look, let's take it. Let's not force anything, but let's not sit around and think we got to wait till the last second shot. I'm sure if you would have made both free throws, we probably would have called another timeout because we had another one left. So, of course, Coleman goes out and misses the free throw. So just like Coach said, hey, when Coleman misses his free throw, now so I get the ball and I bring it up, and they're in a box and one, which they hadn't done all night. And so I look at Smart, and we're trying to get guys in our box and one offense are kind of what we're normally doing. What we would do is we get one guy in the wing, one guy kind of splitting the point, and then Steve would run off screens off the baseline. The problem was Steve had already run off one, and now we were kind of stuck to go to the left side. It just took us a little while to get going into it, and we were almost kind of standing around a little bit. But the good thing is they were in the box and one, and when Keith threw the ball to the post and cut, they had nobody guarding him because they were in the zone. So, but going back through all of that, us getting a rebound, creating a break, scoring, calling timeout, letting the guy that we wanted to foul get the ball, we foul him. So all those things that we were supposed to do, we did. And then we didn't take. Well, it wasn't a bad shot now because it went in. But if Keith had missed that shot, I'm guessing Coach would have been all over floating to the left because he was on him all year. Quit floating to your left when you shoot the ball. Yeah. You got to jump straight up and down. And it
looks prettier that way, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just amazing. You've obviously seen the picture of the balls in the net. And we're all just standing there. And the amazing thing, though, is that ball went in with 4 seconds left. And nobody for Syracuse calls a timeout until Monroe does, kind of walking away with 1 second. That's when I walked over, and we were kind of like, I remember I said, Steve, we're going to win. We are going to win. We're done, And Steve went to Coach and said, hey, get Isle in for me, for himself, so that we had our better, athlete defenders on the floor. But in today's game, that clock stops with 4 seconds, and they got 4 seconds. We knew they had, with 1 second to go, you don't have a whole lot of
options.
And what was weird is Coleman's left-handed. He takes the ball and throws it right-handed, and Smart gets it, and Smart wings the ball up in the stands. I go, what are you doing? And that's a ball you just made the game-winning shot with, and you winged it up into the crowd. I don't know if you ever got that ball back or not.
Oh, my God.
But that was the first thing that went through my mind is, what are you doing?
It's gone now for sure.
I cried. I think I cried a great deal when I hit the shot. I did more crying than celebration. I tossed the ball into the stands. I thought I tossed it up, but he said it went in the direction where my parents were sitting. My mom, my father, they all were crying. My aunt, uncles, and cousin, they were all crying in the stands because they couldn't believe what had happened.
We executed down the stretch. Keith made some plays, obviously, and Steve hit a big three, I think, with 4 or 5 minutes to go that was over in front of our bench that was really big. But we executed. Now, some of the things that I thought was crazy, and maybe it was because of what happened on the Trish free throw when it went out long and we got a break, that they didn't put anybody on the line when Coleman was shooting the free throws. And that he missed it so bad that they could have potentially gotten a rebound. He was short, and it just kind of hit and went straight down. But we took our time, just like Coach said. And, that to me, a well-coached team, there's no panic. Even when we got down 10, now we made some changes, and we kind of freed Keith up to kind of go crazy, as I always say. But other guys made plays too. And that was fun about the whole thing is everybody contributed that played. It was just, we ended up winning that game, not playing our best. And I don't think Syracuse would say they played their best, but I always just say we won that game just because we believed and we knew we were going to make plays at the end.
That's interesting. That pressure in practice is an interesting concept.
Let me go back to this. I was way more worried about the LSU game than the Syracuse.
Really? Oh my gosh.
And I'm wondering, and now I think about it, it's probably because I was on the bench worrying, where when you're on the floor, you feel like you've got some control of what's going on. But the LSU game, I just felt, God, we are out of this thing. What are we doing? And LSU was playing really well.
Yeah.
You didn't get the sense that Syracuse was just like on fire and doing whatever. I mean, again,
momentum had really shifted on them.
Yeah. And they just weren't like hitting on all cylinders either. And so you always there was a sense that we were coming back. Play here, play there, and then, like I said, when we got going, but going back to the pressure in practice. I mean, he did. He put heat on guys because he had to find out who was going to be able to play in the end of games. And I was always a big believer. It doesn't matter who starts, who finishes.
Right.
And coach found out in practice who was going to finish games. I mean, he just did. I mean, I remember my senior year. He called me in the office one day, and we had a week to practice. He goes, "How's everybody feeling?" I said, "We're pretty tired." He goes, "All right, well, I just want to get a little sweat going today, not much." And I said, "Yeah, Anderson's really complaining that he's tired." He goes, "Oh, Anderson's tired, huh?" He goes, "Well, this will be a fun day for Anderson." He went out for 20 minutes and just ripped Anderson.
Did you tell him that? Like sorry, I set you up for that one, buddy.
But I mean, he ripped him. He said, "Let's find out what we got with this," because Anderson was the first.
Yeah.
Let's find out about what Anderson's got. And Anderson could do nothing right. He just stayed on him and stayed on. And he wants to see, are you just going to cave and run away from the play so that you don't, playing not to screw up? And hey, when you catch the ball, you're just going to pass it back. Are you going to take shots? Because if you miss, I'm going to get on it. I mean, that coach did that stuff in practice. And you always, at the time, you're like, God, this guy's crazy. But there was that method. There was always something behind what he was doing, trying to figure out, okay, who are the right stuff. And it was interesting. We went to that 3 guard in the Syracuse game, and it just worked. I don't know why he did it, but he did it. And then we ended up doing it a bunch. We didn't start off doing it the next year, but then after, I don't know, so many games, he started putting Edward Jones and I together. And then the next year, that's all we did. So
crazy.
And it helped that I could guard the forward guy.
Yeah.
But it helped us in the Syracuse game. There's no doubt about it, because Keith got some freedom and wasn't handling the ball as much. And all of his baskets in that game were off cuts and moves, to where Syracuse really did a poor job of guarding. They were so focused on Steve and watching that. All of a sudden now Keith's cutting and we're hitting him and he's catching it on the move. And
he's so
kind of like
fast.
Jackson Davis.
Yeah.
Now he's got guys on his hip and he can jump up over guys. And
way through the second half, it was Smart who hit the shot to tie the game at 61. It was Smart who tied the game at 63. It was Smart who hit this shot to give IU a 67-66 lead. And ultimately, it was Smart on the slide to the side, delivering the shot.
Yeah, I mean, it really opened up our offense. Because then he made a couple nice passes off of him cutting, guys going to help, dumping it to Daryl or Dean, and those guys getting dunks. And, I mean, you could just see in the last 8 minutes of that Syracuse game, our offense got to go on. We started getting easy stuff.
Yeah.
And where we struggled it was almost like a grind before that. So, but I still tell everybody that if Smart missed, I had the rebound.
You're going to get the putback, huh?
Problem is I have a nightmare where I get out with both.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, no. Then you'd be Bill Buckner.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I woke up when I was just shivering.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, oh, my gosh, this. And I get this rebound right in front. I go up, they foul me, and I miss.
Oh, my God. That would be
that'd be a whole – that's a nightmare,
That is a nightmare for anybody, 100%.
But, you look at that deal, and
what's the legacy of this team? I was thinking about this, like in the context of coaches' 3 championships, 76, 81, and then this one. Just like how do you guys, perceive yourself amongst those, and then just I guess the ending of the championship era too. At least Coach Knight's championship.
Well, that's what's unbelievable is that this is the last. This group is the last team that's won one. But I would say that we were the least talented of coaches' teams. Didn't have anybody that played, had great NBA careers. though Dean ended up playing a long time in the NBA, but Steve played 3 years. I think Keith played a little bit. But to me, I mean, we won a lot of close games that year. I don't want to say we were the toughest team, but I think we executed well. But I don't think there's any doubt that any of us would say, oh, yeah, we were better than the 81 team. Oh, we were better than the 76 team. I mean, but you know what? We were good, and we were a good group together. We just, it's weird. I don't remember us being the closest team in the world as far as off the court. But man, when we had some rough days, and we lost 4 times, and it felt like we lost probably 15 times. But when there were rough days that we went through the season, everybody kind of hung together, and I think that was the biggest thing. And Coach normally gets after the guys that play the most and that he demands the most of. He'd gotten on Daryl quite a bit at the start of the year, but Daryl, gosh, he was such a good college basketball player. He was really good that year. And then got after Smart and Garrett a little bit on just, their whole mentality of getting away from the junior college game and getting into, hey, we got to execute certain ways. You're not just going to go beat people because you're bigger, faster, quicker, jump higher. And then he could get on Steve and they just roll off Steve's shoulders, man. Steve knew he was going to play. And I think that when we had those rough spots, this group didn't get into a shell, didn't go, okay, hey, I got to take care of myself. I don't want him yelling at me. It was like, no, well, you know what? Come on. Hey, he's right. We got to figure this out.
Obviously couldn't ended up any better for Daryl, Todd, and I. This has been a great group for me to play with because we've been able to criticize each other, and yet in doing that we respond well to each other. And I'm gonna really miss playing with my teammates because they're a great group of guys to play with, and the experience I've had under Coach Knight has been unbelievable.
And I think one of the things that really helped this team, we talked all year about winning the Big Ten, and there'd never been a player through Coach's tenure in Indiana that a player didn't go through his career in Indiana without winning a Big Ten championship. And Steve and Daryl and Todd hadn't won one yet. And we went and played at Purdue and at Illinois and lost both those games. So now we're a game back. But we knew Purdue had to go to Michigan, which was going to be a loss. They lost by 30 up there. And then we had to beat Ohio State to get a part of the Big Ten championship. And we did that, and that was huge. I think that was a big relief going into the tournament for us because now we'd accomplished something. And now it was like, okay, we've won the Big Ten, which is all Coach ever talked about. He never talked about, hey, we got to win it. We're going to win a Big Ten, and if we get in the tournament, now things fall into place and whatnot. We had some moments in the tournament that could have gone wrong, but again, we hung in there. Auburn game, we're down 14 in the first 6-7 minutes, and Coach calls a timeout, and he unloads it was unbelievable. And then we end up trouncing them, and it's amazing. We didn't play our best. I don't know, except for the Vegas game, we ever really played a really good game in the tournament, but we were good enough. And we made enough plays, and we trusted each other. It wasn't like we played horrible. I would say LSU's play had something to do with us, but we did not play very well against LSU. Yeah. They were running a lot of different stuff on us. We were a little bit confused on what was going on, but again, we made plays at the end of that game to win. I mean, we could have easily, and the same that Syracuse game. I mean, we made the right plays at the right time. That's the sign to me of a good team is that you don't have to be hitting on all cylinders to win. And that group to me was just that team just had no jealousy. Everybody knew Steve was doing this or that, but if Steve scored 10 and somebody else scored 25, it didn't matter. I mean, it was just win at all cost time. We were on a couple of teams where there was some issues.
Yeah. That's a hard thing to cultivate.
Yeah. For sure. And you get a little bit of infighting going on but that's easy to do when Coach is after you and you're losing some games and it's like, oh my gosh, here we go again type of stuff. But we only had that one really bad stretch when we lost to Illinois and at Purdue back to back because we lost earlier in the year to Vanderbilt, which was a disaster. Oh boy, that was a rough day for me. So we lost that game, and then we lost at Iowa.
Okay.
And I remember when we lost at Iowa, coach coming back and saying, all right, we got to take care of business and just win the rest of the games because nobody else is beating Iowa, and we're going to have to beat them when we play them at home. And it was over with. He was not happy because we didn't play well at Iowa, but boom, we had to move to the next Big Ten game because let's go. We can't lose another one.
Yeah.
So we never really had an extended part in that season where he was getting after us. Now there was days for sure, but and then when you get to the tournament, it's all about, hey, let's keep this momentum going. And I just think that, that Vegas game, the way he set that up, carried over into, okay, we're playing 80 minutes and we're going to win this game. There was never a thought going to that Syracuse game that we weren't going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, there was never like, is this going to work? Or is this, I remember going to the Vegas game thinking, wow, we are going to shock people the way we're going to play.
Yeah, it's a shocking game.
But we knew that we could play that way, and coach was kind of like handcuffing us a little bit. And it's like, oh, the reins got let out. Now we get to go play the way we all played in high school. And and that game gave us a lot of confidence going into the Syracuse game. But we were thinking we were 1 seed Syracuse. I mean, so that stuff goes through your mind too.
For
hey,
sure.
we should win this game.
I mean, it's been so much fun, like going back through the games, and I remember them from being a kid, but rewatching them, it's just a joy to watch that team, because it really, some of the things that you're talking about and relating come out, really do translate. Even thinking about them right now, the way that you executed down the stretch. I think the imagination that the players showed throughout the tournament too, like hitting threes, embracing kind of that play, 3-guard lineups, the movement of the offense, the cut, the cutting, the big guys who could play in space and had that athleticism. There's just a lot of modern elements that really still translate.
It's interesting. You hear all these guys say, oh, the big guys aren't our big guys. Daryl Thomas could have put the ball on the floor and dribbled around and done all that stuff. That wasn't the way it was. That's not the way we played. I'm not sure Dean could have done that, but Daryl definitely could have done that
For
stuff.
sure.
It's just such a different, all the dribble and everything when we played was away from the ball. Mm-hmm. Now everything's on the ball. A quick story, so now we end the game and we're all going crazy, having fun. We didn't even shake Syracuse's hands, which, but at that point, I mean, and back then, the losing team had to sit out there because they announced them.
Yeah, they got the second place.
They went up and got the runner-up stuff where we're cutting down the nets, which was just kind of garbage. But, we pile on the floor, and now we cut the nets down, and we go in the locker room, and all the media's in there. And I remember sitting in there. I'm being interviewed by Bob Lee, who was one of the original ESPN guys. We're sitting there, and he says, "Walk us through the last 29 seconds, Joe, and what Coach said in the timeout." So I'm going through the whole thing and saying, "Hey, when Coleman misses his free throw, I want the first good shot taken. Whoever gets it, step up and knock it down." Going through the whole thing, Coach Knight walks by and says, "Yeah, Bob and Hillman knew not to take that shot."
Man, he loved giving it to you.
So then I just kind of drooped down, like, "Oh, God, you just ruined my day here." But walking in,
that's when you should have said, but I would have had the rebound if he missed it.
I wasn't saying anything.
Yeah, probably wise.
So then I go in to take a shower, and coaches, and we were in the New Orleans Saints locker room stuff. So big, huge, massive, 100-stall showers. He's sitting, he's got seats all in this one shower stall, just sitting there talking, and we're going to the right. And I come walking in, and he says to his guys with his back turned to me, "Man, that Hillman earned his scholarship tonight. We don't win without him." And that's when I felt like a big part of Indiana basketball.
That's cool.
So and I don't know if he saw me coming or not. I don't think he did, but he said
either
that.
way.
Yeah, that was huge. That
cool.
was really a neat thing when he said that.
Because
I'm almost positive this will be a record. We only had 4 guys score in the game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But then we talked. He talked all year about. And always had talked about it, but especially that year, just be a positive contributor. Mm-hmm. You get in the game, you don't have to score, make an assist, screen somebody, block somebody out, defend, just be a positive influence and be a contributor to the game. And he always pumped guys up in the locker room, either halftime or end of game. If they hadn't scored a bunch, hey, gosh, so-and-so played unbelievable tonight. You're 2 rebounds, those a couple plays. And, so those were always things that he talked about, because we knew we had guys that could score, and Daryl and Keith, or Steve and Daryl and Keith and Ricky, and we all those guys averaged double figures. So when Isle and myself got into the game, it wasn't thought about scoring. It was, let's do this, and we could pick, and Steve and I could pick up the pace defensively, and that's what we talked about when we get ahead. Okay, hey, let's get after this a little bit, and he was so good at that. On that, you look back and you go, 4 guys scored. Well, that's all we needed.
Winning. You said that winning plays, that really stood out. That matters, because I do think sometimes guys will hit a 3 and you think it's a big deal, but sometimes it's when you hit it, or being able to hit it in the right moment, or when the pressure's on, that it seems to have more energy, or
the ones,
matter more.
I think sometimes the ones that put you ahead, or the ones that you're up 1 or 2 and you drill a 3, is a bigger shot than when you're down 6 or 7 or 10 with 8 seconds to go and you drill a 3. And at that point, who cares? But just going through those last 8 minutes of that Syracuse game, I don't think we had a turnover, maybe a charge or something like that. But I don't remember us having any plays where we threw the ball away, or, we missed some shots, obviously. But that's going to happen. You're going to miss shots. But we played a pretty clean game the last 8 minutes. Now, some things did go our way, but we made plays, and we got some steals, and we blocked out. And, I heard a guy the other day say, blocking out now, with the way the athletes are and the way guys are running all over the place, and you're having to run guys off the 3-point line, blocking out is different than it was 30 years ago. So how hard is it to put a body on? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to block out a guy that's coming free for all from the 3-point line, but down low you can block guys out.
Yeah.
I mean, you go watch tape, and most rebounds are a team shoots it and every defender watches the ball and a guy sneaks in there. Look, if you turn around and just see where the guy's going, you can at least bang him a little bit.
Bump him a little, right?
And I mean, those are just things that we did. And again, when Coleman misses his free throw, and he misses the free throw, let's not guard Cycli or Coleman. Let's let them get it so we can foul them. I mean, you think about those, there's such little things, but we did them the right way.
That's awesome.
Because I would have been really interested at Syracuse, because we talked about we don't have to foul right away.
You had time.
I'd been really interested to see what would happen if Monroe or Cycli would have gotten the ball, and we would have doubled them and forced them, because we're going to leave those guys alone to where, with 15 seconds ago, they would have thrown it to him and then we could have fouled them. But it was great. I mean, it was almost like they were listening to our huddle and said, okay, let's just
give it to him.
Let's just do what they said.
Yeah, it sounds great. Here you go.
He throws a 4-foot pass to Coleman and we just foul him. It was amazing.
Wow.
I mean, I remember yelling, Daryl, foul him.
I bet.
Because he had to run it, because we were leaving him open. We had to run to get to him. And he just held on the ball. So. Yeah.
What was the celebration like then? I mean, obviously now it's time to celebrate, because I have to ask, because it was funny. I was talking to Jason Andreas, who's on that Michigan State team, and he said like Izzo on the plane back to Lansing is like preparing for the next season. I was like, what a sicko.
So I'll tell you even more sicko. So after all the stuff gets done and all Coach Knight goes to the media, I think with Steve and Daryl and Keith, the rest of the media was in the locker room. Then it all settles down. We showered, and Coach comes in and he says, hey, you know what, Daryl, Steve, Todd, what a great way to end your career. I mean, you guys are seniors, great group. Couldn't be more proud of you guys, the way that this whole season came along, the way you guys battled. Big Ten champs, national champs, couldn't be more proud. For you guys coming back next year, I expect us to be in the same place. You walked out. I'm like, are you crazy? So
didn't even make it to the plane.
I mean, no. So we weren't going home that night.
Yeah.
So we go back to the hotel. All Coach said was, hey guys, really, what a great year. Really proud of you guys. Bus leaves tomorrow at 7:30. Don't anybody be late. And remember, you're representing Indiana University. And he walked out. And we just went for a free-for-all down on Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
It was great. We had a great time. everywhere you went was IU people. It was, at the time, I remember saying, even 10, 15, 20 years after, every Final Four should be in New Orleans because of Bourbon Street and the way it was set up. And
for sure.
Big. And the way that they set up the court where it was down in the one end zone, it was dark. That was it wasn't a bubble. It was a dark ceiling. But we all went out and we scattered. I mean, guys were with their families and friends, but we all kind of huddled and we'd bump into each other in the bars, and it was great. And I remember, I didn't go to bed because we had to get up at like 6:30 or 7 to shower, and the bus literally left at 7:30, and we drove off. And we get back to Assembly Hall, and normally we just pulled up in the outside of Assembly Hall, take our stuff. We drive down in the loading dock, and I'm going, what? What are we doing this for? And we get off the bus, and there's 25,000 people in Bloomington. I mean, on the floor is pulled up, all in the stands, and they got this big stage set up, and we had a big post-pep rally after the thing, a big rally that we had no idea. And I mean, there had to be there's probably 20,000 people in Assembly Hall.
Yeah, so great.
So that was Tuesday morning. Then Tuesday night, gosh, we went to the Bluebird or Jake's, whatever. We were up on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole week was kind of crazy. We went to the White House on Friday.
Oh my God.
And guys,
holy cow!
Not a whole lot of sleep.
Dragon.
So we got to meet President Reagan.
Yeah.
Actually, and Vice President at the time, Bush.
Yeah.
Bush won. So, I get to meet two presidents at the time. A lot of fun. But then I got a wake-up call because Saturday morning I had to get up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I was on the bus to go play Ball State in a doubleheader for baseball.
Oh,
and it was about 30 degrees out and snow. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. What have I done?
And I hadn't taken batting practice. I hadn't done anything all year. I mean, literally, it was the first. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I am freezing here.
Yeah.
Playing a doubleheader. And the ninth inning of I think it may have been the first game, we were ahead, and Coach Morgan says, Hillman, get a bat. I'm like, what? I don't want to hit right now. And I foul one off the end of the bat, and it stung my
God.
My fingers were so bad. And I said, and I think it was on I don't know what it was. It was a 2-0 count or a 2-1 count, and I foul it off. Thank God the guy threw two straight balls in the dirt, and I got a walk.
Oh my God!
I was not swinging the bat again. My finger was ringing so bad.
Couldn't feel it.
That was a rough. That Saturday was a rough day playing a doubleheader in 35-degree weather after being out all night for a whole week.
I bet. That's amazing. That's amazing.
It was a great, lot of fun in Bourbon Street on Monday. My parents were there. My brother and one of my sisters was there. A lot of people had family down there.
Yeah.
It was a great. We had a lot of Hoosier fans, and it literally on Bourbon Street, it felt like it was all IU fans. I mean, it was packed. Great, so much fun, and then to come back and see the students. Now, I've always said I think it would have been a ton of fun. Fly back to Bloomington that night and gone down to Kirkwood where everybody was going crazy. Because that looked, they have those overhead. I have a picture of the overhead. They're at the Showalter Fountain, and then they're down on Kirkwood.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we would have gotten back too late, but that would have been a lot of fun too.
If they told the students who were coming back, nothing would have been too late.
Oh yeah, well, that's probably true.
From the calm of New Orleans, we go to the wild celebrations in Bloomington. The News Center's Jody Davis was in the middle of all that last night.
See, right now, I have to tell you, I am really happy to be over Bloomington than down there, because right now, the only way I can describe this is that there was a tidal wave of deliriously happy fans that have spilled down onto the streets and now comprise a sea of humanity in downtown Bloomington and at the Showalter Fountain. I don't know if any of you IU professors have scheduled classes or canceled them for tomorrow, but you better expect a pretty good absentee rate after this celebration tonight. It is going on in Bloomington. It is going to be on until the wee hours of the morning.
The thing in Assembly Hall was really cool because it was all the people that couldn't go to the game.
Right.
There were some students that went down to the game, but it was not like normal. It was a lot of parents, a lot of alumni. But then when we got back to Bloomington, it was the town people and the students there at Assembly Hall. And that was a lot of fun too. That was, we spent about an hour and a half, everybody getting up talking, telling a little story here and there. And the fans just were it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, Coach, I watched one of the clips, Coach Knight's comment about Louisville, about the sign.
Oh, turn the damn sign around? Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was great.
That's an all-timer.
Yeah, tell that guy you can turn that sign around.
It looked and sounded as if IU had just won the NCAA championship on its home court. And Coach Knight had a special message for the 1986 champ Louisville Cardinals and that city's mayor. Here's the scene there, same time last year.
Now when those Hoosiers come over the river, the first thing they're going to see is this.
And from Knight today,
I want you to tell the mayor of Louisville to turn the sign around.
Yeah, that was at that.
Yeah.
Thing in Assembly Hall.
Yeah,
and I don't know if anybody knew that we were going to do that, but that was fun. Good time.
Amazing. So,
great memories, Aaron. I mean, it's just you look back now and you watch every Final Four. They usually show that highlight of Keith making the shot. You know, I tell them, still this day, I get to tell people, you know what? Something I'll never forget, man. It's just it's the reason why I left California to go to Indiana. I wanted a chance to play on a national championship team, and it happened. And just thankful that we got the opportunity.
Well, I hope we get to see another one sometime soon. That'd be great.
Sooner than later, but it's it's hard though.
It's not like the Big Ten. It's not like the Big Ten is lighting it up in championships. It's been since 2000.
It's hard. You not only got to be good, you got to have some luck.
Got to be lucky.
I mean, you know what? We got some luck in the LSU game. I mean, no doubt about it. And then you know what? Hey, Syracuse makes all their free throws.
Game
Who
over.
knows what happens? We would probably have to start jacking up some threes. Now, would we have made them? Maybe. We had a good 3-point shooting team with Steve, and you got to have some things go your way in 6 games. And that's the to me the hardest thing is if you have a little bit of a letdown, you got to hope the other team's not playing very well because you're gonna have some times where you're gonna go on some lulls. And we went on some lulls at the start of that second half of the Syracuse game. But we ride the ship, and then they kind of went on their lull, and we got a little bit of a run. And you got to be able to withstand and not panic. Like when we got ahead of Vegas made a little run at us, but we withstood it. And you just gotta play through those things, but you gotta have some things happen for you too. And there's just very few teams are so good that they're just you don't have to have some luck go your way in the 6 games. I mean,
almost never.
Anytime you watch the NCAA tournament, the team that won it had to get through something in one of those 6 games before they win it all.
No, there's no doubt about it. And I think you spoke to a lot of those things, just having that mentality and having that preparation to when that time arises, like figure a way through it. And then, you do just like in everything in life, you got to get a little bit lucky, but it is that like preparedness to seize those moments when they come up then too, not just to fall into them.
There was always that thing that, and people talked about, you give Coach Knight 5 or 6 days to prepare for a team, he's going to win. We heard all that.
Yeah.
And, now we go, that's why when, I distinctly remember way more of the preparation in the Vegas game because we had that 5 days where the Syracuse thing was just, again, hotel, film, walk through, hotel, walk through. And so now you've got to have a team that can say, okay, we're going to do this and it's going to help us. We didn't have the kind of team that you just said, okay, we're just better than everybody else.
What is Sunday like after winning on Saturday and you have 2 days until the national championship final?
I think the first thing, like Denny and I, you guys dragged us out of our locker rooms and you had to do all that TV stuff, and I think to get them rested is the main thing.
Well, one of the things that you can't hardly wait for that day to get over. You know it's coming, you know it, you got to wait and practice and all that, but you can't wait for it to get over.
I mean, if you got better talent and yours way better, then you probably don't have to prepare as much for it. Or you don't have to be as spot on with that. You can just so-called go out and play. Well, that's why those really talented teams end up getting their ass beat because they don't prepare. And they think we're just going to go out and we're going to win. So when we had the 1 day, it just didn't seem like what we did for the Vegas. But I never felt like we weren't prepared. It was just different. And it was almost like, okay, well, let's get this game going. and let's just see what happens. We're in the Vegas. It's almost like we knew it was going to happen. That makes sense.
It does.
We had drilled it for 4 days. Hey, here's what it's going to be. So, but again, great memories. Played against great players.
My favorite part about participating in this series is listening to the interviews, listening to the soundscapes, and then rewatching the games. When I watched the games, I felt like I was really in it, or I had a stake in it. Watching these games was like the first time I saw Hoop Dreams. It's just amazing. These players sharing their stories and their viewpoints from the sidelines or the court allows me to experience the game in a whole new way. More than a fan, I was almost like family member or someone who was there at least. I felt a part of it in a way that I certainly didn't before. So stick with us to the end of this episode as we recap the game and break down some of the amazing moments.
Games lacked anything. It was last second or madness, and the championship game more than made up for that.
All right, we're talking Indiana versus Syracuse. This is it, the national championship, the last game of the 1987 season, last game of the Final Four, the last national title for Indiana. Let's start with setting the scene.
I mean, we just watched Indiana upset UNLV. Very exciting. Syracuse looked awesome in the game before, too. I mean, basically, I wouldn't have gave anybody the favorite for this game. Like, it's a coin flip, and extremely exciting to watch it. I love how Syracuse has the jumping big men, however you want to call it, like the lobs, and it's this exciting game to watch for sure.
In the first 9 minutes, the lead changed hands 8 times. Neither team able to open up more than a 3-point gap. Dean Garrett, one of 2 junior college transfers in Knight's starting lineup, scored an early follow-up dunk for Indiana. The leading scorer for the Orange was the junior center, Ronnie Cycling, who scored all 4 of his baskets close in. His alley-oop dunk gave Syracuse its biggest lead up to that point.
Yeah, the fact that Syracuse has 3 professional players, Indiana basically has none. I mean, Alfred goes to the pros, but never really sticks. And it's pretty obvious, I think. Like, those guys stand out as pros. Like, Cycli, Coleman especially, I think, looks like a pro. And Sherman Douglas has just that burst that is recognizable in this game. But I do think it's weird. You mentioned before we started that Indiana comes in as the favorite in this game. Do you think that's a Coach Knight thing, or what do you think's the reason for Indiana maybe beating UNLV?
I think probably beating UNLV, and they were 22-0 in their white jerseys. I don't know if that really matters, but I heard them say it in the pod or in the game. I don't know if that really carries over when you're playing in a neutral site, but I guess.
Wait, hold on. So players love superstitions, though.
I know. That's what
so did you have superstition?
I guess. I mean, I guarantee. If I put myself in this moment watching this game,
I would definitely want the white jersey.
I'm sure I would have been excited.
I still do it. Like, I will wear, if I'm playing well, I'll wear the same shoes. Like, I won't change it up, or I'll wear the same like gear setup.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I hurt myself last time with these shoes that I love, and I won't wear them now. And I only wear the one pair that I haven't hurt myself again in.
Yeah, right.
And I have all these shoes that are perfectly fine. I'm just
so these guys are 22-0. They were like, this game is ours. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great note there. Well, let's get right to it so that we get it out of the way. Let's go to the play of the game. I mean, this one's pretty obvious, I think. What are your thoughts on the Smart shot?
I mean, it's pretty close to Jordan's shot, right? Like, even like the way he shoots kind of looks like Jordan a little bit because he gets so high up on his jump shot. It was pretty awesome.
Indiana wins the championship. Keith Smart is the hero.
Alford trying to work himself free. Smart down on to Daryl Thomas. 8 seconds to go. Out the Smart. Baseline jump shot in the air. Gone! 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. The Hoosiers have won the national championship. Bob Knight being congratulated by his assistant coaches, his son Patrick out there, and there is pandemonium. There's the super.
Keith flared out to the corner. I hit Keith, and Keith just made a move and hit the shot.
I wanted to go to 15 seconds before we started running our offense. I wanted a shot and a crack at it. I didn't want to really take quite as long as we did. you may have been in here 2 more seconds, and you might have been second-guessing me for being the only coach in history that let the clock wind down without getting a shot at the end, And our kids did a hell of a job. Darryl did not take a panic shot. Darryl didn't make a move where he got in trouble with the basketball. He did a great job with handling the ball and his pass, and we got a really good shot.
I couldn't really go berserk because there was still time on the clock, and a lot of games have been lost with 1 second on the clock. So I knew that they still had time on the clock, and we had to still prepare a defensive play to stop that wild and crazy shot.
The last 5 seconds, Keith Smart takes the shot. It goes in. You win by 1. I couldn't watch it. I had to keep leaving the room. Now, doesn't that just drive you nuts after a while?
Well, I looked up at that shot going through the net with 5 seconds to go, and I felt a hell of a lot better than I did with 7 seconds to go.
Yeah.
It was weird, though, right? He hits it, and why did he not call timeout immediately and get, 4 seconds? I'm just like, why is we'll talk about that later on in the podcast, but yeah, that by far is the play of the game. But there was some pretty sweet plays in my mind. At the very beginning, there was a couple lobs they had in a row, and one of them, I think Douglas threw it up, and somebody actually hit it in the air. It was redirected, and Cycli goes up, grabs it in the air, and dunks it. I mean, that just shows you the pro, what you're talking about. The pro, you could see, not everybody's going to be able to react that fast to catch a ball in the air that's been deflected and dunk it. It's kind of funny. I didn't really remember a lot of people doing the behind the back passes, fake passes, layups in this kind of generation.
Who did that in the pro?
Rondo did it really
Rondo,
good.
yeah,
that's what popped out to me when he did it. I was like, man, maybe that's where Rondo got it. I'm guessing maybe Pistol Pete or somebody did it,
For the first person.
Yeah, the first person. But yeah, that was pretty awesome to see in this game too. And it was at a critical point in the game when he made that play. And it really faked out. I think it might have been Hillman. It made him jump. It was pretty cool, but
got it taken away by the Orange defense, and Douglas comes away with it. Would you believe the move? Syracuse leads.
What he did, Brent, he faked the behind-the-back pass, and that just froze the defender. Now watch this. He'll freeze the defender. He looks at the defender, fakes like he's going behind the back, and you see Hillman? It almost crossed his feet up. Great play.
That was an amazing play, and the speed that he does it with, that never fails to look great. It's a very New York move too. So the Syracuse point guards often come from that New York City lineage, and so that feels like a very New York move with that. I just want to talk. I think the Smart shot. I listened to the end of the Big Trip and the end of one of the 1987 things they had on the Big Ten Network, and they talk about how that play is so emblematic of Bob Knight, the way that he wanted basketball to be played. We'll hear Hillman talk about it, where he describes not really a play being set up. I mean, Alford's obviously the go-to person, but it's not designed with just him in mind. That's not just the only option. We have to move it around till he gets the shot. It is a true motion. It goes down into the post. He realizes he doesn't have it when he's got the double team. He kicks it out, and Smart just in rhythm. Even though it's a difficult shot, it does look like he has rhythm on the shot. I mean, he rises up. He has a nice follow through. It doesn't feel like he's forced that shot.
That's what I was going to say. It wasn't a forced shot. It was probably a shot he shot in practice. In rhythm. It wasn't like a guy was up in his face and he was shooting it over him. It was a good shot.
I think the startled nature of him hitting it is what causes them to miss the timeout. And I think there too, we forget that there aren't as many assistant coaches at this time either. I mean, there's 12 assistants now on every team. So someone is going to be screaming at the coach or whoever for a timeout.
Both me and Howard signaled timeout. I thought there were about 3 seconds left, really, but the community, I was a little more towards half court. Howard was right there by the official, and we both signaled timeout, but 2 ticks went off, and then we just got the 1 second.
if it's just the coach really, or maybe one assistant, I think you can just be kind of stuck in the moment and the clock ticks away. And Knight not calling a timeout too just sort of led to the whole flow of that moment. And I think he just got swept away in it. But yeah, it is wild because I think 4 seconds does make a big difference.
Oh yeah, they could have set something up. Maybe they even got the ball to half court and called timeout. They had 2 seconds.
Yeah,
ran a play and got a good shot off. So yeah,
or a shot off.
Yeah.
For sure.
All that time they took with the timeouts, and all they did was just launch it up and didn't even get close to anybody.
Nothing. Yeah. All right, let's rewind to the start of the game. Now we got that out of the way. We can talk a little bit more about it when we circle back around because it's worth talking about for an hour. But what jumps out at the beginning of the game to you?
Well, one thing that jumped out was both teams started slow, and we saw this. Was this the Syracuse game before that started slow?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, the Providence Syracuse game started slow too.
I was like, man, where's all the scoring? And then it did come, but it took a little while. It seemed like they were tight, and we talked about that in the previous, about how players get a little tight at the beginning and why. And the other thing that jumped out to me is the very beginning, they're shooting a free throw and they go, just don't look at yourself in the Jumbotron. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And then later on in the game, they show there's a big Jumbotron behind the basketball goal.
Yeah.
This is back to our rims conversation from the previous and the Final Four. You're setting up the biggest stage in college basketball. How do you have a Jumbotron that would interfere with people shooting free throws behind the basket? That doesn't make any sense to me.
They clearly had not thought of some of this stuff through. Again, this is the benefit of having another 30 years of this, that they have just thought about all of these things. And you're seeing mistakes in real time. Oh, no one let Jerry Tarkanian know that the halftime's over. Oh, we set up a Jumbotron right behind where the players are shooting, right in their line of vision. It never happened today. I just think that there was the amount of production and money that goes into the Final Four now helps to not have those things happen. But I think at this point, just them putting it in the Superdome is going out on a limb. I mean, I'm sure they weren't 100% sure that they'd be able to fill it. I mean, 68,000 fans sets the record for a basketball game. So they're assuming that it'll fill up, but I'm sure they weren't sure of it, and I think that some of those logistics are just kind of not worked out yet. I loved the Garrett dunk right at the beginning. I think that's emblematic. We talked about the catalyst for this season, and really that dunk, I think, shows why he was so necessary. That athleticism, especially against this front line of Cycli and Coleman, that you need to make them work, and you need a guy that can just explode off the floor and challenge them to have to play defense. You don't want those guys being able to rest on their laurels throughout this game, and that kind of showed they're not going to be able to sit back and chill and just score points.
Yeah, I think that, to your point, these two guys, Smart and Garrett, their athletic ability really showed in this game, and why IU needed them at certain times. They might not have been the most consistent players, but you need players that can take over or be able to use their athletic ability at certain times. It makes a difference, especially when you play more athletic players. Just to challenge them. You may not be able to stop them, but maybe just to challenge them and make them make a harder shot, or make them play defense a little bit harder.
Did Alfred watch Freddie Banks in the game before and decide, I think I should do that?
I don't know. He was on fire, that's for sure.
4 of 5 in the first half, just blazing away.
He was the reason. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but he is the main reason that we were in the game.
Yeah.
That was one of the things too that jumped out to me, is Syracuse had so many opportunities in this game just to extend leads, and if they would have just made the easy shots, because they were getting so many rebounds.
Retirement. Monroe misses the three, and another rebound for Coleman. Comes up and puts it in. What a game that freshman's having.
He's the plastic man. He's reaching those arms out. Another great rebound. Coleman
Coleman has another one. 19 rebounds.
And Coleman seemed to be everywhere during the 15-3 spree. He had 3 block shots and 1 steal, which delighted every Syracuse fan, including his mother.
Like, you could just tell you just weren't going to keep him off the glass all day.
Yeah, Coleman has 5 fewer rebounds than the whole Indiana team in the first half.
That's what I mean. Like, they're right there, point blank. Little shots they probably make 9 out of 10, right? And if they hit these shots, maybe the lead's 14 or 16, and IU can't even come back.
Yeah, then you're in that kind of cycle where you're trying to push back and just having trouble with it.
And I didn't feel very good walking off the floor at the half because we weren't as sharp as we were Saturday. Syracuse did an excellent job changing defenses and had us standing around a little bit and guessing a little bit more than we should and not really getting the ball where we wanted to go throughout most of the ball game. I thought they did a hell of a job defensively.
I think, too, I wanted to talk just about how cold Alfred was then at the end of the game and the ebb and flow of this. Smart coming in and scoring 10 points there down the stretch. Like, the ability of these guys to be ready for the moment, I think is a big deal in this game, where we talked about the previous game, like guys being tight at the beginning of the game. He goes out and then comes back in and isn't afraid of the moment. Like, wasn't afraid that he got taken out. Like, that was clearly established by Knight, and then Knight telling him, like, you're going to go back in. And I want you to do this. And then him seizing the moment, like going in there, realizing that he had an advantage athletically and could go at Syracuse in that way, not afraid of the size that maybe some of the other IU players were being a little intimidated by.
And maybe him being a JUCO helped him because his maturity level. Realized that, okay, I need to wake up and I can do this, right? Like, besides maybe if you have a younger player, you pull him out like that, then maybe he's done. You know what I mean? Like, he can't recover. And the one thing that was a big coaching moment for Knight in this game, but one that I personally thought that was huge was bringing Hillman in the second half. Hillman played really good defense on Sherman. The announcers were like, oh, Sherman's going to take advantage of Hillman, and he didn't. Hillman it was good positional defense. He made him work. And really, Douglas didn't do much against him. Actually, Douglas did more against Smart than he did against Hillman, and Hillman just made solid plays. And I think that just goes back to what we talked about before. To win a championship, you had to have all levels. This is just another level of their team that from the trip or wherever we want to say it came from, like, he was willing, he's a good basketball player, to sit there on the bench and then come in and do what he needs to do and be okay with it. For most teams in the country, he probably could have started. From what I've watched of him, he was a solid basketball player. He might not have had the athletic ability of Smart, but he was just consistent. He was going to give you good defense. He was going to be smart with the basketball because they have him bringing the ball on the court, not Alford. They had him bringing it up to set things up. When you think about this IU team, with him coming off the bench, Isle, like, they just had 2 guys that were fundamentally sound that come off the bench, and they may not have elevated offensively for the team, but they didn't lose anything.
Well, I think that's part of the genius of Knight too here, and Hillman talked about it in the last podcast where he said it was during practice, like, you'd have an opportunity at IU. Like, it was about performance. It wasn't about your name or your reputation or whatever. It was 7 guys are playing, and then there's 2 guys behind that, or however many, basically trying to earn their way into that 7, because those are the guys that are going to play the majority of the game. So every time at practice is an opportunity to show that stuff. And then when you get in the game, of course, there's an opportunity to show it as well, to fit in, to do what is needed to win, rather than making it about you. And I think that's why he benches. That, for me, that coaching moment of him benching Smart is that moment. I don't know what happened with Smart, but it did seem like it was about him for a minute. He sits down. I mean, that's a big thing. Sit one of your starters in the middle of the national championship game, chew on him, and just let him marinate there. I mean,
it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be like, hey, go sit on the bench while we're losing. We really could use you.
Yeah.
But this is the learning lesson for you in the national championship. Like, it isn't like it was just a normal game. That's the crazy part. Like, you can see somebody doing that like in the middle of the Big Ten or something, like, oh, let's just sit you down.
Early in the season.
And then you'll learn, and then later you'll be ready. But to do it in the national championship game when you needed the speed.
Well, then, too, the trust to put him back in. I think that's the other part that sometimes goes unrecognized, because Knight often gets characterized, and rightly so a lot of times, for his hard-nosed approach, where it's just like, you're not doing what I need you to do. I'm mad at you, sit down, or what, chew on you. But then there's that other aspect of it where he had that conversation with him and puts him back in. And that takes a measure of trust and a relationship too, to know like, all right, we're gonna go for this and try and win it. And I need you. Like I do need you. And you've got to play, but you got to do it my way to bring us over the finish line. And it works. So
I think this game shows the importance of them having the 3-point line, right?
For sure, for IU.
Because if they don't have the 3-point line, IU does not have a chance.
They don't have a chance
to win this game, right? Yeah. And, I think that it definitely made the game more exciting. I think so.
Yeah. I think both of the, all the games were exciting. In fact, the way that teams got to this Final Four was using the 3-point line in different ways or different times. And I think that's what it has become. Like it's ultimately a weapon in that if you're hitting, and I think the criticisms of it now are that people have used the math on it to blow out the 2-point, the
mid-range.
Yeah, some of the game, right? Because the math is so overwhelming for the 3, they don't even acknowledge the possibility that there's another way to play basketball. And that is annoying sometimes because I do get the math. But IU also showed in the Vegas game by only hitting a couple threes and Vegas shooting 30s plus that you can win with just 2s as well. Now you have to do it a different way and you have to be really efficient. And you have to be patient and work the ball. And maybe the shot clock works against that. The shorter shot clock works against that now a little bit. But it is still possible, to go about that way. But when it's going down, it always looks nice.
Oh, yeah. And it does open up the floor for more dunks, too.
Yes,
it makes the game more exciting.
It spreads the game out. It allows those little guards to move around more. I mean, I remember watching some of the older IU games and watching them pass it around the perimeter for a long time. Again, no shot clock in some of them, and then just trying to find ways to work the ball in. Let's talk about the long shot moments of this game. Which long shots? We've talked some about the 3-point shot. Which ones defined this game in your mind? I had a couple, and I had actually a miss that really defined it for me.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know how Alford gets a shot at the end of the half. I mean, he's on fire. So how do they allow him to get open?
Well, Hillman sets a nasty screen is what it is.
He did, but still, you think they would almost, because it was 3 seconds to, you think they'd been everybody attack him, make him make a pass.
And look at what they do. They switch to a little box and one. They're looking to try to keep it away from Alford. They don't do it.
The 3 at the buzzer. 4 threes for Steve Alford. And Indiana takes the halftime lead as a result. Take a look at this shot, how he got free. Hillman screened off cyclically. Alford rose up, pulled the trigger. We've come to the end of the half. It is Indiana 34, Syracuse 33.
But yeah, that was definitely a big moment in the game because really I felt that first half, Syracuse really dominated. And somehow we go into halftime up by 1, right? You're like, wow. If this was real time and I'm watching this game, I'm like, we're going to win this. We've been not good besides Alford the first half. We have to play better.
And we're up 1.
And we're up 1. So
I wonder if it goes, you said something in the last podcast that I thought made a lot of sense, that you've played defense one way for 3 years and now your 4th year, or maybe even your first year, if you're, Coleman coming out of high school, there's this thing that you all of a sudden have to think about. And it's just different. It really is different. People, even today, if you're a really good shooter, maybe don't realize how easy it is for some people, especially if they start hitting. Like once Alford's on fire, that is a free throw for him. He's knocking that. He's just knocking that in and it looks effortless. And I'm not sure that they realize how big a deal it is to just kind of let those go. You're like, oh, that's a tough shot. Because they talked about, when was it? When we were talking about the introduction of the three-point line, one of the teams was saying their guys couldn't hit a three-pointer for the first 2 weeks of shooting it in practice. And you're just like, what? Well, it sounds insane. So I think still at this time, because big guys don't shoot threes.
Oh, no.
Like,
barely shoot jump shots.
Every big guy in the world, Wembanyama, the number one pick now, is, shooting one-legged threes. But it was not even thought of. And so I think that maybe you're almost like, okay, that's not a great shot.
Well, I wouldn't say not thought of. I would say you're benched.
Yeah.
If you do that shot in a game before the three-point line, you're benched because they're like, that's the worst shot in basketball. What are you thinking?
Yes.
So your whole life, like, they're telling you, you don't shoot that ever.
Right.
Like, unless you want to sit on that bench, and we'll bring somebody in. I don't care if they can shoot or not. We'll bring them in because we're not
working
doing
for
that.
layups.
We're working for good shots. There's no shot clock. We're going to work it around. I mean, It was a really big deal for basketball to get a shot clock. Let's be honest. Like, nobody wants to sit there and watch people pass the ball around and do four corners for 3 minutes. You might as well be watching baseball.
I thought another one, too, was Monroe's air ball near the end of the game. So Alfred's on this streak where he doesn't score for, I think, 7 minutes at the end of the game. So he's really cold. Smart stepping up at this point, thankfully, for IU. But Monroe airballs this shot. It's a pretty long shot, not a three, but misses by he should have shot a three because he missed it by about 2 feet. They grabbed the rebound, long outlet to Alfred, and what a turnaround again, just like that. Sometimes those plays can have such a backbreaking or momentum shifting time. You get one guy a shot that's been cold, you energize the fan base. The airball feels so deflating, even though it's just a miss.
And I even felt like the pass, though, he didn't really know what he wanted to do. He just kind of launched it, and when he launched it, I was like, where is he going? And then all of a sudden, Alfred comes out of nowhere.
Go for the three. He was off balance.
Missed it, and Thomas caught it. And here's Alford breaking free in a foot race with Monroe.
But then Monroe, with a chance to increase the Syracuse lead, missed by a mile. Thomas took the air ball and fed Alford. With 4 minutes to play, Alford ended his scoring drought.
Wow, that was a turn of events because, I mean, Monroe in this game plays well. Well, good. He made a lot of big shots when momentum was switching to stop IU from taking the lead. He made a bunch of big shots where he hit some threes. He hit some jumpers. He had a really good game. And I mean, you're pointing out the one bad shot that he had.
Well, just because it was big. It was so big. That was a moment. He hits that. They go up, I think, by 3 or 4, and instead he airballs it, and then IU's up 1.
Yeah.
And so it just is. It's those little things. It's such a mental game too at the end where you're trying to overcome or come back, and that really does feel like you can't get over the hump, or you just that the rest of the team seeing a guy who's been playing well airball it can be such a psychological downer, especially for guys that are so young.
I mean, if you're behind, I think that you're fine with the shot, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's just the way it played out. You said he could have made it. It isn't like it was such a hard shot.
No.
Like he couldn't have made it. He'd made shots like that during the game already. It was just for an older player, it was surprising how bad it was. Maybe he just slipped out of his hands.
Something happened. Okay, let's get to our buy or sell takes. I'm going to start out with one about Coleman. Would he have been the MVP, the Final Four MVP, if they win this?
Absolutely.
Right? A freshman, though.
I mean, did he finish with 18, 19?
19 rebounds.
19 rebounds. I mean, he
played great in the game before, too. Against
he
Providence.
Still was down there, and he was making people change their shots. And, he definitely would have been player of the game from my point of view.
I think so too. But boy, that free throw too. You hear about missing free throws, and that's
the way they
that's
lost
an
at the end of the game.
That's an all-timer.
If I was a Syracuse fan, that would just be so hard,
devastating.
Because you had the game.
To hear Hillman retell to Knight in the huddle saying he's gonna miss it, like just calling his shot and saying Coleman misses this, here's what we're doing. He just knew he was going to miss it. And I mean, if it doesn't happen, of course, it's not as cool. But the fact that he does, incredible. Like that's just apex mountain for Coach Knight, seeming to know everything. And Hillman kind of recognizes that.
They weren't a really good free throw shooting team, though.
No.
And they said that all game. Like,
they were not.
They knew whenever it got to the end, well, here it goes. If they make their free throws, they can win, or IU can come back in this game. Just depends on if they hit or not, which is pretty crazy to me that they were that bad at free throws because, when I was a kid, my dad always be like, shoot your free throws. And maybe that's why he always said it, because maybe he was like so mad at watching IU miss free throws that he's like, we got to change this.
Yeah. Here's my other buy or sell take. Is the 3-point shot good for basketball?
And we talked about it already. Absolutely. I think that
unequivocally, even now, like, because I feel like we're almost at a tipping point. I mean, at this point, I would say unequivocally, yes. It's making the game more fun. It helps teams that are not quite as talented overcome that deficit. It adds some randomness to the games. That's exciting. But is it still there as people shoot more and more? And I don't even know if we've reached the top level of people shooting threes. Like, is there a point where it's kind of like, you know what? It might not be, because there are rules that we've recognized in basketball. At some point, we don't want that anymore. The hand checking rule just got out of control, right? Where it became a wrestling match, and that wasn't what basketball wanted to be. I mean, there was talk back in the day about raising the rims to 11 feet. There are just questions where it's just like, is there a point where it should change? I don't know.
So what you're saying is, do you think at some point it should change because it's too easy?
Well, they've been
for some of these players.
So what they've been doing now is they've been moving it back, right? The college 3-point line isn't 19 feet 9 inches anymore. It's moved way back. The NBA line had been moved in and moved. Now it's moved back. I mean, there are ways to change it. Like in the pros, one of the things I've heard is like, get rid of the corner threes. Basically, you only have the arc, because pros shoot 50% from the corners, right? So they shoot a ton of corner threes because it's closer, just the way that the court is designed. So get rid of the corner threes. So some way to maybe not totally get rid of it, but limit the opportunities for it. So you could do the same thing in college, right? Even though it doesn't have the cuts on the corner threes, you just cut the area, so it's not a 3-pointer from the corner. So you limit the area of the court where you can shoot it, and so then you have to have more dynamism to the game. I'm just kind of tired of fast break, kick to the wing, shoot a 3, right? That just seems to be the thing to do, and it looks a little more formulaic than I'd like it to. I mean, part of what I love about basketball is the unexpected. And now it's almost like I can tell what's going to happen before it even happens.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of bad things about it, but there's a lot of good things. You got to look at, like, if you got a kid that's not athletic, but he can shoot a 3, right? So he can sit out. I'm talking about the getting to college, not necessarily college and beyond, right? Because, the game really is about the youth, right? I mean, yeah, we watch the college, we watch the pros, but the game starts at the youth. So you have to get kids that want to play. So maybe you got a kid that's kind of goofy, but he can just sit there and shoot 3s. So at least you can put him.
Called him goofy.
Yeah, you can put him over in the corner, and maybe he can't dribble very good, but he's really good at shooting. So you just put him in the corner, and it spreads the court out. So he has a part to the team, because now they play zone a lot more. So maybe they can kind of cover him up. Maybe you only got 4 good players in your team, and then you got that guy. Now, not that he's not a good player, just he's not as good athletically. He just hasn't developed enough, or maybe he's a little bit shorter, or, So in that aspect, I can see how it's good. Now, if they move it out further, the only problem I see with it is you spread the court out so wide. It's going to be really hard to stop these really fast guards.
What about getting rid of the corners?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel
you just don't have guys. I mean, the idea is you don't have guys standing there in the corners anymore. It doesn't make any sense to have them just stand there, because it's not that opportunity to hit a 3.
I mean, they'll just figure out different ways to
maybe.
Like if you put it out further, then they can just have like the bigger guys be closer to the rim. So when the guards get around the other guys, there's so much space that the help defense can't get to him, and then it's just going to be dunks.
That's all right.
You don't know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to change. Anytime you make changes, there's always going to be.
I don't care about the changes.
Away from a different part
so it's not the changes, though.
A different part of the game that people like.
It's not the changes, though. It's the formula. I don't want it to become so formulaic. Again, that UNLV game, 38 threes is like shocking in there. But I mean, now it's like, if you don't shoot 38 threes, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I mean, I would like to see the jump shot being brought back.
Yeah.
You know, like the mid-range.
Off the dribble.
Yeah.
It just looks cool, right?
Yeah. It looks cool, and it opens up the whole game. But
it's more.
That.
It's more interesting. There's just more possibilities. You know, that's what I like about it.
I would like to see more or less one-on-one. And that sounds bad because the NBA is based on one-on-one everybody now, right?
Right.
More actual fundamentals.
Well, they've got the ability, though. I feel like every guy in the NBA could score 20 points a game. So it's
yeah,
okay.
But now the problem is they're watching these guys.
Yeah.
The kids are, and then they're trying to simulate what these people are doing, and they don't have that ability.
Agreed.
You know, like for IU, right? These kids are watching Steve Alford. They're thinking, okay, I want to learn this pump fake, the step through, you know, the fundamentals.
Nobody's thinking they want to learn the pump fake.
That they want to be like Steve Alford.
They're thinking they want to hit that splashy three after Hillman set the screen for them.
Oh, probably. That's not true.
All right, would this game have been better with Bill Walton announcing?
I'm Bill. Yep. We're at Stanford today, and we've got the game of the millennium tonight.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Learn to love your job, love pressure. Let's go.
I think can succeed here. Barack Obama. I don't think he's going to coach. So
well, you keep saying that, but why? Why are you so negative? Why do you just turn down? Party on. It's a wonderful day. It's Oregon. The sun was out. Come on.
Oh, I mean, I always say absolutely. But in this game especially, I mean, I think that he would have just went crazy with the dunks. He would have went crazy with
that last
Alford
shot.
Hit threes.
That last shot, right? Oh, my gosh.
Because even like after Alford hit like the 7th three or whatever, he would have been like, oh, my God, you know, they're raining down or something. There would have been some kind of excitement. And they're just like, Alford's on fire. He's hit 7 threes.
He would have been just anybody with I love Gus Johnson too, or just any of the announcers that get excited at that last shot. I mean, the last shot seems they almost seem as shocked as Boeheim that he hits it.
Yeah, Boeheim's like,
oh my God, it went in. Oh my God, it went in.
Oh, timeout.
We're about to lose the national
He's like, I cannot believe we're going to lose this game, basically.
Yeah,
for sure.
Big picture context. What did the game mean for Knight in Indiana? And what did it mean for Syracuse?
I mean, for Bob Knight in Indiana, I mean, I think it put Bob Knight on the where I'm looking for. Mount Rushmore. That's what I was looking for. Mount Rushmore as one of the greatest coaches ever to coach. For Syracuse, I don't think that you can really be upset you lost national championship.
Yeah, Boeheim's on the map, right?
Yeah.
After this is an amazing coach.
He was a good coach before this. So, I mean, I think that it set him up. He probably helped him get more players and Syracuse to be at a high level. So I don't really think it really affected Syracuse in a negative light by any means. I mean, they're national stage in an exciting game.
Different. You know? What a different era for coaches, though, too, to think about. Boeheim loses this game, doesn't win a national championship till 2003. I mean, what are the chances that a coach would still be around?
It's amazing, isn't it?
You know, like
how long he coached?
He was there forever, and just kind of the ebbs and flows, and them sticking with him, because that doesn't seem to happen. Even if a coach has success, they want a certain
in today's
level,
basketball, he's not
success,
staying. Like
right?
if he came 2000s, he wouldn't have lasted.
Wouldn't have lasted, right?
No, but I think because he was the legacy, it's kind of like Bob got pushed out because of certain situations. But if he wouldn't have, he could have been mediocre in the Big Ten, and they would have just kept allowing him to be the coach, right? They wouldn't have pushed him out.
No,
like they had to have a reason, and that's like it's kind of like Coach K or even Calipari at Kentucky. They said get rid of him. It's hard to get rid of those coaches because you don't know what's going to happen.
Well, even Boeheim, the way it ended for him was weird. They basically didn't renew his contract. He didn't really end it, and I think it was just it's just tough. You know, that guy's such a legacy, and it'll never happen again. It was an era of college basketball where they helped grow the game so much with their personalities that I think that is part of what set them apart. It's like these coaches, as much as the players, define this Final Four, right? Pitino, Boeheim, Tarkanian, Knight, they're the biggest stars in this tournament.
I mean, Pitino. You know, like,
for sure.
He's
still going, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I mean. These coaches, it's like kind of what you said, they kind of made college basketball.
Yeah,
in a way. You know, like, they're a huge part. It's kind of like Bird and Magic or Jordan.
They
like,
are.
it's without them, you know, college basketball doesn't become what it did.
Doesn't exist in the way it does, for sure.
For sure.
The Final Four was history. Once again, glittering history.
Thank you for joining us for this look back at the 1987 National Championship game. Iconic Seasons 1987 is a Principal podcast production. I'm your host and executive producer, Aaron Meyer. Robert Wire is my contributor. A special thanks to Joe Hillman for reliving his journey. If you enjoy this series, head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show and make sure to leave us a rating and review. It really helps us and helps others discover the show. If you want to get in touch with any questions or comments about the show, send us an email. Our email address is hardwoodhistory@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube at Iconic Seasons. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back soon with the final episode of Iconic Seasons 1987.